All right.
Valerie Ward.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to have you on my podcast.
I'm so delighted to be here. I was, every day I would see your posts and be like, maybe one day he'll invite me.
Yeah, and I did.
And you did.
I did, and it was always coming. I've been really proud of my podcast lately.
Yeah.
I've been pretty consistent, like pretty much weekly episodes for about, I want to say maybe 3 or 4 months now.
Yeah, that's impressive.
I've had the podcast since 2021. And I'm really excited to have you on because it used to be called Side Hustle Divas.
Oh.
And I would have like business people on and marketing people and people with side hustles and people with businesses.
Yeah.
And I know you are a business, like you had your ice cream shop and like you do improv and comedy and like it's just a perfect like mix of the two like versions of this podcast. It's been life and bold for a while now. Since I turned 30, I was like, I don't want to just interview people about like how to get more customers. And so I turned it into Life and Bold, and it's been quite a journey. But I found that the reason I'm proud is because I think I cast good people and I have good conversations. And when I come, people tell me, oh, you're so easy to talk to and whatever. And so that's why I think the podcast is good, because I think I'm good as a host.
Yes.
But also I ask really great people. So you're one of those people.
Oh, thank you. I feel so honored. Well, it's funny that you mentioned my business because I did have an ice cream shop and it was called Sweet Ritual. And I noticed the soap in your bathroom is called Hand Ritual.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I got that soap. I think the soap smells good. I got it on Amazon. And
it's not too strong too. Because sometimes you wash your hands and then you're like, why do I smell
I know.
peonies?
It's like everywhere. Yeah. So anyway, welcome to the show. I'm so happy you've arrived. You're here.
I am.
I have a lot that I want to talk to you about, but I just feel like I just want to like get to know you and like I do know you, but like we haven't had like a sit down conversation.
I don't think like we definitely see each other. I feel like all the time. Out at shows. But I don't think we've gotten to like just really sit down and talk.
I know. So it's gonna be really fun.
What a delight.
And I remember just meeting you for the first time at Magnet, the Magnet Theater.
I remember that.
And I just was like, you were talking about roller skating or rollerblading, and I just felt like you were a nice person. So part of what I want to talk about is like that, just like kindness, and I don't know why it just comes to me that like I want to talk to you about like kindness and like being a good person.
Yeah, sure.
So do you want to talk about like your past and like how you got to where you are now, and like and then we can kind of get into like us as people.
I mean, I guess we can. How far you want to go back?
I don't know, like, because I'm so curious, because where did you used to live before you moved in New York?
I lived in Austin, Texas.
Yeah,
for about 20 years, over 20 years, I guess.
And is that where your ice cream shop was?
Yeah.
Austin, Texas ice cream shop. That's so cool.
Yeah.
And then before that, where did you live?
So
like,
before
where did
that,
you grow up?
San Angelo for like my later childhood into my teenage years.
Where is San Angelo?
It's in West Texas.
Okay.
It's about 100,000 people.
Okay.
So it's not a small town, but not a big town. There are no bigger towns anywhere nearby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's cool. And like, did you go to high school there?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so this is my favorite question.
Okay.
What were you like in high school?
Oh, okay. I was I was kind of a weirdo, but like I got along with everybody. I was one of those people where like I actually didn't really have a lot of friends, like close friends that I would like hang out with outside of activities, but I did a lot of activities. Okay. So I was in theater, I did a lot of speech and debate. Those were like my main things. And I did church youth group. Yeah. I was in a Methodist church. Yeah. So it was like those activities that kind of filled in the social needs, but I didn't know how to be close to people or like have close friendships. So I would like usually eat lunch by myself. Okay. But I was like, very, very smart, creative. So several of like my great aunts, like my grandmother's sisters, had died when I was like in middle school. Yeah. And so I got all of their clothes from like the 60s and 70s. Cool. So I wore a lot of vintage clothes. Yeah. Things like a white polyester blazer with like lime green and royal blue plaid stripes, and then like bright green polyester pants, like that kind of stuff.
You were unique.
I was
yeah,
unique.
And I feel like people in high school who are unique, like sometimes they kind of end up like feeling like weird or like alone or like whatever, but then that's the people that people appreciate as adults. Like, do you do acting, like scripted acting?
Not a lot.
Yeah.
So when I was like in middle school, I was, you know, I was obsessed with theater. I wanted to like move to New York and be on Broadway when I was a kid. And I did some of that in middle school.
Yeah. Okay.
But then in high school, I never got cast for any shows.
Oh, man.
I don't know if it was politics or, you know, what.
Yeah.
But yeah, I never got cast in a show in my high school
But you
theater
auditioned.
department. Oh, yeah.
And were you in like the theater classes in high school?
Yeah, I took theater classes all through high school.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I did like crew for all the shows, like stage manager and stuff like that.
Yeah. And can you sing? Like, do you sing a lot?
I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm like a singer.
Okay.
But I do love singing, and I'm taking musical improv classes right now.
Yes, I remember we talked about that.
I love them so much.
How is let us dive into the musical improv.
Yeah.
How many classes have you taken so far?
I'm in level 3.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Okay. And because I do musical comedy, but I like write songs and perform them.
Yeah.
And actually I did that show on Thursday in Astoria. That went really well. I did a 30-minute set.
Yeah.
And I sang my songs, but I actually did improvise a little bit more.
Oh.
And I didn't improvise the lyrics, but I improvised like pausing and saying something and and kind of reacting to people's reactions and stuff like that. And I found that to be very, very fun.
Yeah.
And I do want to take musical improv.
It's so fun.
So have you done shows with it?
Yeah. So for every class, there's a show that comes after it.
Yeah.
So I've done 2 of those shows, and I did some musical improv back in Austin too.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
And what do you think is the key to musical improv? Like for you?
Well, I think having a really good accompanist makes everything so much easier. And I think people take that for granted. But when you have like a great, piano player or whatever kind of instrument,
whatever it is,
usually piano, it just makes everything so much easier.
Yeah.
It makes it feel effortless because they'll keep the structure for you. They'll like prompt you when it's like time for the bridge,
Yes, right.
And because we're also like we know music, like humans just know music intuitively from having grown up with so much of it. We don't even have to think like what is a bridge. We just are like, oh, something should change here because the music's changing.
I know. Yeah. I noticed that in my show that I did last week. I noticed that when I started the bridge, everybody's like, okay, yep, here's the bridge. Yeah. Like, which I kind of loved because it was satisfying, I think, because like I wrote a new song. I'll tell you about my new song. It's about so I was in high school. When I was in high school, I was not out of the closet as a gay person, and I was always claiming that I was straight, and like people would ask me if I was gay, and looking back, like it might have been okay if I had like come out. There weren't other people that were out at least that I knew of or was friends with, probably because I was like distancing myself because I wanted to protect myself probably. But I loved Miley Cyrus like as a pop star, but I would claim that she was like my celebrity crush and like that I like love, like I'm so attracted to Miley Cyrus, and like the way that guys talk about like girls and women and like kind of gross like way they talk about them, like I would be like kind of like trying to do that.
Oh wait, I want to hear some. I mean, I should probably just listen to the song.
But like I would be like, she is so hot. Like I love, like in my song I go, I'm not gay because I love her boobs. Like
boobs.
And like it's a funny song. But then when I was in high school, Miley Cyrus was dating Nick Jonas, and I really actually loved Nick Jonas. So the bridge goes, but when I'm alone at night, I think about Nick like all of the time. I wonder if he's gay like they say I am, and if he is, well, god damn.
Oh, I love it.
And so, but that's the bridge, and it's really satisfying. So I would imagine with musical improv that it would be, you have to think of stuff, and like, do you try to make everything rhyme?
No, I don't worry about rhyming. And like when I learned musical improv in Austin, that was like one of the first things they taught us was like, don't worry about rhyming.
You can't worry about it because it's too much.
Yeah, I feel like
if you can, that's great.
Yeah,
but
it's icing.
It's satisfying if you can like get a nice line with a nice rhyme.
Yeah. but yeah, I see what you did there. But yeah, it's like I always think of it as the icing on the cake.
Okay,
but if the cake isn't there, then the icing doesn't make sense.
Yeah, right.
You know?
So how long when did you get into improv? In Austin?
Yeah, in college.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Well, in high school, I was very interested in that. Like I always loved making things up, even since I was a little kid. I loved making up stories and songs, and like in high school for like speech and debate, if you got eliminated from your like debate or prose or whatever, you could do improv events as like consolation events, and those were always my favorites. I was always like excited to get eliminated,
right. You're like,
so
I'm
I could
lose this.
Yeah. But then in college, some of my friends had started taking improv classes at the local theater, and then started a troupe on campus, and I was like, wait. No rehearsals are always fun and new.
Yeah.
No memorizing lines, no blocking, like instant gratification.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what is it about improv that you like? Like what keeps you doing it for so long?
I think it's being able to be creative with other people that I really love. And I feel like it, kind of helps connect me to other people. And I love discovering together.
Yeah, that's something that like I really do like that about improv. And I love being like the star, or like the number one guy on the stage, like just alone with my guitar. But I like both. I really do like both. Yeah. But like when I love like dress, like you don't want to outshine people necessarily in improv. Yeah. And like part of my personality is outshining people. Yeah. Like I like wearing big sparkles and like I like, trying to look really good and like trying to, I did have to challenge myself when I was doing my improv classes at Magnet Theater to, like, I was like, okay, I'm going to try to like set someone up. Like, I'm going to try to like be the person who's like helping the scene versus like the person who has the funniest punchline. Mm-hmm. And it definitely was, I'll be honest, it was a challenge for me, and it was a good challenge for me because even like in, group projects in college or like, any like team sport I ever did, like, it's within me to want to be like the star a little bit. I'm as a kid I did gymnastics, and that was cool. Like that is like that. Like you do your routine, you get a 10, you get first place. Yeah. And I never got first place, but I always wanted that. Yeah. And I also loved like circus stuff as a kid. Oh yeah. And so since I did gymnastics and I just like really liked clowns, I was like, I'm gonna be like in the circus, like I'm gonna somehow do this and be a circus something. And I was a clown like 3 years of my childhood for Halloween. Oh cool. Okay. And like I was just obsessed with clowns. Yeah, and, I
was a clown one year for Halloween.
What did you do? Like what age were you?
I was probably like 3 or 4. My mom made me like a little clown outfit. Yeah.
That's real. I love the homemade outfits. Yeah. I actually remember when I was in 3rd grade, I wore some Target, costume or whatever. And this girl, I would love to remember her name, but because I think she was really cool. And she probably is really cool now. Yeah. She came in like a lab coat with like rats glued to it and like blood all over it. Oh, so cool. And she was like some evil doctor or something. Yeah. Like, and I was like, that is so like cool. Yeah. And then I started to be like, I need to make my own costumes. Yeah. But then I didn't have like the imagination that like probably her mom had. Yeah. Like, maybe she had it, but like so I remember one time I was like trying to like make my own costume, and I like got a pillowcase and like I was a soccer player, and I just like put a number on a pillowcase or something. I don't know. I was like, I think I was like a soccer player, but with drumsticks or something. Like I was like, I'm a drummer, soccer player or something. Like, you have to start somewhere with the creativity. Yeah. But improv I've seen you do improv. Yeah. And you're really good, and I love watching you do it, because the one of the things that I really do love about improv is everybody does have their own style. So even if they're not the one with like the biggest punchline, or they're not the person who's like the flashiest or whatever, they still are showing their personality and their willingness to go out of their comfort zone, or out of their like regular version of themselves. Yeah. And that's something that I've been really inspired by watching this group of like improv people that I've met over the last couple of years, is like just being silly.
Yeah.
So like, is that something you learned over time, or is that something
I think
you were always attracted to doing?
I think I always had like a silly, goofy, creative personality. But I also, what you were saying about like always wanting to stand out. I feel like I have a really like ambivalent relationship sometimes to like being the star. As I start getting older though, like, junior high, all the bullshit of that.
Oh
like, God, I started feeling more self-conscious. There was like, I remember, I think it was in elementary school, like 5th or 6th grade. I was on the announcements committee. So I got to do morning announcements. And then somebody told me that somebody else said I was annoying. And it just like crumpled me. And I think like that's like a core memory.
I know.
And it's like, I started being like, oh no, people are looking at me. People don't like me,
Oh my God.
So,
that's so bad.
Yeah, I think I started becoming more self-conscious and kind of like pulling in more.
That's the junior high curse.
Yeah. So I still have, but then also I was like super smart, and so I felt like, often I knew the answer or I had something to say in class, but I didn't want to be always like, ooh, me. But I did too. Like I did want, and it was hard to find the like, how do I not just be like a show off, but also like, how do I let myself be my full self? It was always, and I still feel that struggle.
How did you navigate that? Did you say, I'm going to just do it a little less?
I mean, I don't, I think like, I'm still trying to figure it out. And
did you feel like the school that you were going to like was set up for you to be able to be yourself, or did you feel like
in some places it certainly was? Like I was in the gifted and talented program, and like so my English class like felt more like I could be myself and be a little more weird there. But I was definitely the kind of student who was like friends with the teachers and like would hang out with the teachers.
I kind of was too, but in a different way. Not because I was smart, but because I was like, I think I just liked them a lot. I was smart, but I wasn't doing any AP classes or like I wasn't. It was funny. My mom. I talked about this in like 5 episodes ago or something. But I was talking to my mom about how like I was like I was talking about how I feel like the way that I did high school has kind of set me up for a certain mentality of like, I'm going to do as well as I can. And like, it's okay if I get some bad grades and some good grades and B's, if I can get B's and like 2 A's, like 3 B's and 1 C, then like I'm good. But I applied myself really hard in like I was a student body president.
I remember you telling me about that.
I was like on the school site council. I was like really involved in like clubs and like all of that kind of stuff. And so I just feel like as an adult, like that's what I'm really passionate about, is not necessarily like the analytics of this doing this and that, and I'm more into like people being happy, and like as I'm job hunting right now, and I feel like that comes out a little bit, like it's like, and I'm applying for jobs that I'm helping people, but it's kind of a interesting thing how high school and like the insecurities that we have and our identities that we have and like we're learning to have they shape you.
For sure.
They really do. So then you did improv in college, and then where did you go to college? Did you move
at
to
UT in Austin? Moved to Austin for college.
So then you stayed after college in Austin, and you were doing improv in Austin. And it's funny because I always hear that Austin is like popping off now.
It's had a really strong improv scene for many years. There's several theaters, and it feels very collaborative, which I like. It's not like, oh, you belong to this theater and you shouldn't go perform at that other. It's everyone's like, lots of and I feel like in New York, like for better or worse, the house team is kind of the default model. Like you go to classes at the Magnet and then you're on a Magnet team. You go to classes at the Pit, you're on a Pit team. And it doesn't feel like there's a lot of room for exploring or going solo.
But that's true.
Yeah.
But you did feel like there was a lot of room for that in Austin.
Yeah, because the house team thing isn't really a thing in Austin. It's just like maybe you like the people in your class, so you form a team together.
Yeah.
But it's very, and sometimes it's a lot more in Austin. There's like limited run projects with a specific focus. So it'll be a show. It's like, okay, we're doing like improvised noir, or we're doing like an improvised 60s Western.
Yes.
And somebody will have the vision, and they'll
cool.
cast people and rehearse, and you'll, do 6 or 8 weeks of shows.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And do you have like you work? Do you work? Or do you have a day job?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, what is it?
I'm a consultant.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what do you consult on?
It's like marketing strategy mostly.
Okay, that is
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
That's cool. And so then you do. Is that like
Yeah.
a full-time thing
Oh,
you
yeah.
do?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
work a lot.
Yeah. I
Okay.
work for like one of the big consulting
Okay,
firms.
got it.
I work at PwC.
Okay.
So it's like 50 or more hours a week.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. This is where we got to talk, because
Okay.
I might be getting a job. I have a final interview on
Congratulations.
Wednesday that I'm excited about, and I'm also like, this is a big job.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would be the guy who's going in and deciding like what training needs to happen at the company, and like analyzing all the needs, and like just
that
being
sounds
the learning
great.
and development person at the
Yeah.
company. And and that's what I want to do, but it's under the role is under the talent and diversity team.
Yeah.
And so it's there's a big focus on DEI, which I'm really excited about.
Mm-hmm.
And I did an interview on Friday, and I crushed it.
I'm not surprised.
Well, yeah, but I sometimes crush it, and I sometimes go
Yeah.
medium. I never fail totally.
Oh yeah.
But like
Yeah. No, I think you would be good at interviews. I'm great at I've certainly never gotten every job I've applied for,
Right.
but every job I've interviewed for, I have gotten an
Oh
offer.
wow, yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's okay. So maybe we'll talk a little bit about that, because I have like a final round, and this year has been wild for me, because I've been unemployed. I have little, projects and businesses and stuff like that. But I'm kind of like apprehensive. Like, okay, so if I get this job, I'm waking up, 8:30, getting to the office, going to the, going to the office, and it's 3 days in the office, so it's
oh yeah, that's nice.
it's a little bit of a hybrid,
Yeah.
but still I'm like, okay, so like, where am I going to find the balance for doing my comedy and all that stuff? And it's okay if it takes a little time off.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, how do you just kind of book things for the nights and the weekends? And like, are you able to get through a work day and then go and do an improv show and then go home and come down from it and go to sleep? You have okay.
Yeah. It hasn't.
And has that always been that way?
Yeah, it hasn't been too bad so far.
Yeah.
And like, luckily I haven't had to travel that much.
Yeah.
Sometimes in consulting people are traveling 3 or 4 weeks out of the month. But I've only had to travel once, like, since I started in January.
Where'd you go?
Ohio.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. Yeah, like middle of nowhere,
yeah,
Ohio.
okay.
Yeah.
And do you like your balance of everything? Like,
I do. I feel really happy, because it's like, it is kind of like my kind of default expectation is 50 hours a week.
Yeah.
But once I get used to it, I'm a morning person.
Okay,
so,
good. Yeah.
I'll start at, like, if I'm working from home, I'll start at 7:30. I'll start at 8 if I'm going into the office. And then I'm done by like 5:30 or 6,
And then what are your aspirations with comedy? Like, do you just do it for fun? Like, because the thing is that I have been learning over time. I think when I first started, I was all about like, okay, so, the whole like, 10 years I'll be big and famous and whatever.
Yeah.
And it's only taken me a year or two to understand that like part of it is just meeting people and fun and playing with people and like just like meeting friends. Like that's become the real value of it for me. Also with this podcast, what we're doing now has been extremely valuable to me, regardless of how successful the podcast is, because I just make deeper connections with people, and I have really enjoyed meeting more creative people. Yeah. Because I've always had a lot of friends in my like adulthood, and then when COVID happened and people left New York, I had to rebuild, and I was in therapy, and I was like, I think I need to like join more queer things and like join more like things that people are doing what I love doing. Yeah. And so getting into comedy was like the absolutely perfect thing. So I don't know, I just like really find it that way. So like what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I feel like it's such a big part of who I am. It would be really hard for me to live somewhere long term where there wasn't an improv scene. Like I spent about 4 months in Brazil last year.
Wow.
I was finishing my MBA, and so that was my semester abroad.
Yeah.
Which was cool, but like there was no improv there in Sao Paulo. And I just, I made a lot of friends and we did fun stuff. And then I got back to Austin and I like went and like hung out with my improv friends and I was like, oh, now I can be myself.
Yeah.
Like it just felt more comfortable.
What do you think about marketing for comedy?
Yeah.
Like, can we talk about that a little bit? Like, because I think that there's, so I went to school and I studied market. I did my undergrad in marketing in San Francisco. And I always knew I wanted to do marketing. And it was funny because people in college didn't think of me as a business person. They thought of me as like a, we had like a good like broadcasting kind of department and stuff like that, and everybody was like, why aren't you doing that? Like what are you doing?
Yeah, you're a performer.
Like you're a performer. You should be in theater, or like why are you in business? Like business is, especially being in San Francisco, they're like, business is so evil. Like why are you and I always told them, and I'm proud that I came up with this because it's true, but I said it's because I don't know what I want to do with my life, but I know when I do it I want to know how to sell it.
Oh yeah, that's so smart.
And I was like, I know that like I'll probably be some type of entrepreneur, or like someone who's earning my own money at some point. Yeah. And I loved all my PR classes, and I loved like my marketing classes and stuff. I hated all the other classes, like the meteorology. Not for me. But like but I did take a PR class in college that just absolutely fired me up. And like I have a friend, Lauren, who we were in the class together, and we just love, like, anytime we do something PR, like we like send it. So like yesterday I got my show that I'm doing for Halloween. I'm doing a show on Halloween. I'm doing a Halloween show on October 22nd at Stonewall.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And I got it on BroadwayWorld.com. Like, and
awesome.
I did like I sent a press release.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was really exciting. And I was like, oh, a press release, like. Maybe I should be sending press releases for myself. And like, are you using ChatGPT and stuff at all right now?
Like a little bit, I do. And like our company has its own chat PWC that we use for work.
Right. Yeah. So I'm kind of like getting into like using that to like create like, descriptions of things and like even Instagram captions and stuff like that. But like, anyway, if you're working on marketing all the time, first of all, do you like doing it for yourself, or do you care about it? And then do you have thoughts on other people doing it?
So it's so funny because I've taken exactly one marketing class, or like it's two marketing classes, and they're both in my MBA. So it was like intro to marketing and then like analysis of markets, which was like a marketing analytics class. Yeah. And that's all the marketing classes I've ever taken. And so it's kind of funny that I am in the job I have. But like a lot of my job is not like the creative side of marketing. It's more marketing analytics, like marketing return on investment, like brand strategy. So and like, or like customer experience, kind of like customer journeys and personas and stuff like that. So, and all the stuff I'm doing now is very like, Fortune 500 big corporation type of marketing stuff. So it feels very different than like, hey, I have a show.
To my show.
So it's like, I feel like I don't know a lot about, and even though I had my own business, my business partner was more the one who did a lot of the marketing stuff. Like she would do the press releases, and she was great. Like she got us in like Veg News, and like she got us a feature on the Food Channel for like one of their like sweet treat shows, like all kinds of stuff like that. Like she was great at like just knowing the right people and kind of selling a good story about what we're doing.
Yeah. And so do you like, do you have any interest for yourself of like, come to my show, and like,
I'm
or do
so
you just
bad
like
at
doing
it.
the show?
I'm like, oh, if somebody else makes a post on Instagram, I'll put it on.
Yeah, right.
I'm like, I'm like, it's my job, not my hobby.
Right. I feel like for myself, like, I really do enjoy the marketing and like trying to get ticket sales and like trying to like build the brand and like put stuff on YouTube and put stuff on Instagram. And like, I noticed that within the comedy community, there's totally like a spectrum where some people are only doing online. Like they're just kind of, the extreme of that is like I sit in my room and do something funny online, and then some people are which is probably what you're a little closer to, which is like I'm gonna do the shows, I'm gonna be funny, I'm gonna focus on the craft, I'm gonna like be funny, and then I'll get booked because I'm funny, you know. And then I think I'm really kind of in the middle, or even on both sides at the same time.
You're playing.
Like I love working on my comedy, making it funnier, but then when I come home, I love turning it into something that I can post. And you know, I don't know what's better, you know, because I see people who are this side where they're just like, I'm just gonna, even with like stand up, like I see people at open mics and stuff, and they're just like at every open mic working on are working and I'm like, oh, I wonder, like, okay, so you're getting really good at comedy, like, are you building an audience, like are you what are your goals? I love knowing people's goals, because some people are just doing it for fun, you know.
And like that's really me, you know. I don't see it as my profession, although, like, you know, I'm open to it if somebody is like, hey, do more, because, like, you know, I still have my improv group back in Austin. There's 3 other folks, they're all in Austin, and we've been together, it'll be 20 years next year that we've been together.
And how's that, being in a group for 20 years? Like, what do you guys focus on? I saw your website and everything.
It's great. I mean, they feel like my family at this point. Like, I just feel so comfortable with them. And we do improvised narratives, so like improvised plays.
That's really cool.
We've done a lot of genre work. And so, you know, it's just a totally different thing improvising with them, because everything feels natural, but it still feels like joyful and still like we're discovering things. And that's really good. That's really cool to be like, to have that experience and to be someone that's part of what I was excited to have you on, because a lot of people who I have on have been pursuing comedy, or like kind of doing it more in public for like a year or 2 years or whatever. But you've been doing it. You're the probably most experienced person to ever come on Life in Bold. You're welcome.
So I think it's really cool.
But you know, I mean, so about the kind of like opportunities that come with that. So because we have kind of a reputation, because we've traveled a lot, like we've been all over the world.
Wow.
We've been to Australia, we've been to Europe, to Canada. And so we like have kind of developed these relationships in different improv communities all over the world.
That's cool.
And we were building a lot of momentum in like 2020, and we were going to have a whole Eastern European tour. And then of course, everything got canceled.
The pandemic. How do you think the pandemic affected you? Like, because obviously you've moved here, you have a new job, like you have a different life now after the pandemic. Like, what do you think that was about? Like, I
mean, I had been feeling like I wanted to do something different than running my own business, but I wasn't quite sure what. And then the pandemic came and everything was just super hard, you know, and but I was like,
with the business.
With the business. It was, I bet. You know, but you know, we like really worked through the hard times, and when it seems like things were kind of getting a little bit closer to manageable, and like I was like, all right, I'm ready to go do something else. I'm gonna go get an MBA. So I did that, and I don't know if I would have thought of an MBA if it hadn't been for the pandemic.
And where did you do the MBA?
At UT as well. So
MBA. Did you enjoy doing an MBA?
I loved it.
And was it really challenging?
No.
Okay.
I thought it was pretty easy.
But you're really smart.
I am. Yeah.
Yeah. You know how to study.
Well, actually, like, and I feel like I did better at school as an MBA than I did in undergrad, because in undergrad I was starting to get kind of burned out, and I was learning how to make friends, and so the social
there's a social piece of it, whereas maybe as in an MBA, it's you have a life already. A little bit.
And there was still a lot of like social activities, and I still made great friends. But I just felt like I knew how to work better. I like had just a better work kind of habits. And I found the classes really interesting, and I learned a lot, but I didn't feel overwhelmed by them.
And do you feel like you're better at business because you got an MBA?
Yeah, and I feel like I was better at the MBA because I had a business.
I love that.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll ever get an MBA. I think that I am not a student that way.
Yeah.
Like I really struggle with like studying and taking tests and like and all of that stuff. But I would be very intrigued to like learn more about, like, to maybe just go to an info session about like getting an MBA. I'm never gonna get an NBA.
You're not. You don't want your own sports league.
But like I don't know. I'm really intrigued because I find that I really like business.
Yeah.
And I have my own really small business, my photo booth business.
Oh, okay.
So I have a photo booth. Like it's a ring light, iPad, and backdrop and printer, and I go to parties and people hire me to like go be. It's really like entertainment also. I'm like, okay, everybody, like take your picture and everything, and it's really fun, and I love running that business. And actually, during my unemployment, I took a few months to just invest my time in that and to just be like, you know what, like I did the math, and I was like, if I could get X number of jobs a month, then I could replace my salary. And I just worked on it, and the business is more successful now than it was before, which is great, but it just didn't turn out to be as natural of a fit and like kind of a product market fit kind of thing.
That's always the hardest part.
For the number of events that I was doing, especially with parties being so seasonal, and stuff like that. So anyway, now I'm job hunting and doing that business, and I've had different very small businesses in the past too. Like in the pandemic, I was like selling mugs on Etsy that were like corporate jargon. So like at the time, it was like everybody was on Zoom and like learning how to use Zoom. So my biggest seller was like the "Sorry, I was on mute" mug. And that just like sold like, and like people as they were returning to office were like, they wanted the mugs. So I sold like a lot of mugs on Etsy. And that was like an exciting thing to do during the pandemic. And then, just before that, I just always had different small businesses and stuff. And then for a while, I was doing coaching.
Wait,
go ahead.
Okay, side tangent. Did you ever have a little business when you were like a kid?
Absolutely.
Like selling friendship bracelets? Or...
I'm trying to think. I'm wondering if I did have. I probably had more pop-ups.
Oh.
I probably had more like days where I was like, I'm gonna go. I remember one time I had like a snack shack. Like I was like, I didn't want a lemonade stand. I wanted a snack shack. So my grandpa built me this like, snack shack. I put a sign that said snack shack. Did you have businesses as a kid?
I always dreamed about it. I got this book that was called Better Than a Lemonade Stand, and it was like all ideas for businesses that kids could do.
And it's for kids.
Yeah,
the book is for kids.
It's for kids. Yeah. And I would just I just dreamed about having my own business, like selling friendship bracelets or making origami or
I guess I did have I had a paper route when I was in like 6th grade. And like that's not your own business, but it kind of like you do have to run your own. In 6th grade, you have to wake up at like 4 a.m., roll these newspapers, go deliver them. And I think I only got paid like $50 a month. Like an absolutely weird job. Like I think my dad and my parents both were like, it's just good to have a paper route. But I was doing it 3 times a week, and probably it took 2 or 3 hours like a day that I did it. Like it's a weird thing that was kind of legal.
Just underpaid child labor was totally cool.
Just because it's a paper route. I don't know. It was a weird
Today's episode of Life in Bold is brought to you by therapy. Years and years of therapy. You can't be a better person with other people if you don't know what's going on inside of yourself. So please go to therapy. And now, back to the show.
Perfect. But I don't know. I love business, and I believe one day that I will be off on my own running my own business, whether that's some form of entertainment or some form of consulting or some just business, you know? So I'm always really intrigued by MBAs, you know? Like I just feel like it's an interesting thing.
Yeah, I feel like, for me, it made a lot of sense because I wanted to move into a more corporate world, get more experience, because I'd only ever worked in and for small businesses before that. And I was like, I don't know how a big business works.
I see.
I realized they work just the same. There's just more people, and so there's like less communication a lot of times.
And how much of your consulting is sitting there and saying you should do this, and how much of it is like behind the scenes kind of like analytics and working and like making a plan?
It varies depending on the project. So like, you know, I did a project that was about like user journeys and customer personas, and that was a lot of like behind the scenes interviewing users.
That's
you know,
cool.
correlating all the data points, like taking these kind of open-ended interviews and then being like, well, what are the repeating themes and how can we cluster people together in terms of like their motivations and needs, and then see like where the product meets those needs. I love that kind of stuff.
That's cool. Like, maybe that's something I should do someday. I feel like that's a really or just something like that. Like I feel like I'm really interested in like in that stuff. Like experience is something that I'm really interested in, like customer experience, employee experience, like, you know, partner, whatever. I just really enjoy the idea of like the journeys and like the ways that people experience anything. Comedy, products, like businesses. I have a surprise for you.
What?
I had this new idea for the podcast.
Ooh, okay.
Where I ask another comedian what they would ask you.
Oh,
so
okay.
I have 5 questions from Julia Schroeder.
Oh, I love Julia.
And she came up with these questions, and I'm only gonna ask a few. I'll show you them though. But you have to pick through numbers 1 through 5. So you have to pick a number 1 through 5.
2.
Okay. Are you ready?
Yes.
Do you have a most memorable show that you've done?
Ooh, I mean, I have like so many shows. The improv work I'm most proud of is, well, there's probably a couple, but so I would direct and produce shows in Austin that had a theme, and I was like get very into like the aesthetics of it and the theme, and I had one show that was based on murder ballads, like American murder ballads, and I was just like so proud of like the way it looked. Like everything looked kind of like dusty and barren. Cool. And then the music, the cast did improvised folk songs. And then they would also like improvise a murder ballad and like add a verse for every scene as the story developed.
That's cool.
And we had like a banjo player. And so it was just like, I was really proud of that.
That's really cool. When was that?
Oh, that was maybe like 8 or 10 years ago.
Wow.
Like time is such a fuzzy thing to me now. But.
Have you thought about like producing your own show? Have you done producing your own shows in New York yet?
No, I really love to do that. And like I have a friend from Austin who moved here a few years ago, and she's very like, we both did stuff at the same theater, and so we're both very into musical improv, genre improv. So we've been talking about like, okay, we need to make something happen.
You have to do something.
Yeah.
I'm producing my own. I said I'm doing my Stonewall show. October 22nd, and that's gonna be in my whole comedy career, that's gonna be the first time I'm like producing my own hour. And I'm gonna do like the show will be an hour, and I'm gonna have a couple like special guests come out and like do things in between my stuff, but I'm really excited about that one. And I'm thinking, so it's gonna be at Stonewall. I have to ask, I'm thinking like, how can I really make it Halloween vibes? I'm sure Stonewall will decorate for Halloween or something, but like I kind of want to have signature drinks.
Oh yeah.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Ooh, like they're like Ben signature drinks?
Ben and Halloween.
Yeah.
I kind of think like so I know the drinks, what I would want. Like I'd want some kind of margarita. I would want
if you need names, like good
Are
spooky.
You good at this?
Oh, I'm so good at names.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Maybe we should brainstorm. So I want a little margarita. If I could do like a blood orange margarita, so orange for Halloween. That
and
would be really
blood
great. And
for Halloween.
I just call that blood orange, like blood orange, like margarita, whatever. But then I do have a signature drink that I really like, which is kind of like more of a punch, I guess, which is the vodka cranberry with pineapple.
Oh yeah.
And I just always really like that, and like that is red, and I feel like that's kind of vampire blood or something. And then I want to do a mocktail. I want to have an option I want to have a signature mocktail.
Yeah.
Because people do not drink the same way.
Yeah.
Like that they used to.
I don't drink the same way. Yeah.
And so I want to make it fun, like, you know, because I do have like behind the scenes with the production of it, I have like the bar minimum.
Yeah.
So like I do want to like sell drinks, you know, and that's not the reason. I just always love having signature drinks. I think it's a fun thing. So fun. But I don't know. I think that's a pretty simple request, right? Because they're just making drinks anyway.
Yeah, yeah. So like if
I'll make the little menus and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'll say it throughout, you know, and I'll have the drink, you know, on the stage.
People, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I love a theme.
Yeah.
And like, I think people generally like.
Yeah, I think that would be really fun. Yeah, we should collaborate on the names because, like, I could do stuff based on like my songs.
Oh yeah.
Like, because I have the songs, but then also Halloween. So then I wonder, like, maybe it's like based on my own Halloween memories or like stories that I'll tell, because I'm planning to try to tell some Halloween stories of like, I don't know, costumes that I've worn or like whatever. And I was at my grandma's house recently, like last week, and she has albums and albums and albums of pictures of my family. And I went through and all the Halloween pictures. I took photos of my costumes, and so I'm ready for like a post. I think I'm gonna do it like maybe like as a countdown, like 4 weeks to the show. Here's me as like Kiss, like because I did that one year. Like
I was a Hershey Kiss one year.
That's nice. That's nice. I like a Hershey Kiss. I think one of the funniest things that my brother ever was a whoopee cushion. Like I just basically, when he was a whoopee cushion, I was like, I'm never gonna beat that, and I like can never be anything funnier than a whoopee cushion.
It's like,
do you like scary stuff?
I do. Like I kind of have like I didn't like horror movies at all for the longest time. But then like as an adult I started appreciating them more. When especially I really like the ones that are more like feminist, or like where the woman is the horror, you know, like Ginger Snaps or like Babadook, you know, movies that are more about something beyond just the like I'm crazy killer. I don't like the stabby killer guys.
I kind of like in those horror movies I do like the humor behind like the startling. Like when I don't watch a lot of scary movies, but when I do, like I actually find them quite funny.
I like Final Destination, I think is one of the funniest film series. Just the way they get more and more convoluted. And you just have to laugh. It's so ridiculous.
That's really, I do notice like if I'm in a theater, I'm like, oh my, like everybody else will be like, oh, and then that just makes me laugh.
I also do have a dark sense of humor. The other show I was really proud of, I did like an Edward Gorey improv show.
Oh my God, Edward Gorey.
I love Edward Gorey.
I did, for my photo booth, I did a party for Edward Gorey Trust at the Strand Bookstore. That's so funny that you mentioned him. So now I know his work.
I love Edward Gorey.
That's really cool. Okay, let's ask another Julia question.
Why don't you pick the one that you think is the best question?
Okay, and then I'll have you guess what number it is.
Okay,
what number do you think it is?
I think it's number 4.
Ooh, 5.
Oh, okay. That's for last.
Well, actually, let's do 4 and 5 because 4 is really short.
Okay.
4. What is your go-to ice cream order? Soft serve and scoop.
Oh, okay. Usually if there's something, usually I go for the weirdest thing.
Okay.
But if it's
just for me.
If it's not like a weird place, I'll do something coffee.
Oh, that's good. Okay, I like that. Okay. And then number 5 is, how has your career in business helped you as an improviser, or vice versa?
Oh, definitely know how being an improviser has helped me in business, because you know, I feel like improv just makes me so much more comfortable talking to people, with being able to like articulate ideas and not worry if I'm getting it perfect. And like be able to work through things and kind of and be really collaborative with people. Like I feel all of that is just like.
What about the other way?
Has business helped me in
you in improvising?
I think it's helped me like with my troupe. Okay. So like, you know, as you know, we had this kind of like pandemic, but then we've recently started building up a lot of momentum and like getting a lot of interest to travel to other places. So we're like from July through October, we've been traveling once a month.
Wow.
To festivals.
Yeah,
and
that's
stuff.
cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And so I think like, you know, we it felt like every time someone would be like, hey, do you want to come? We'd be like, how much should we charge? What should we do? What makes sense? And I was like, guys, let's just make a rate sheet.
Right.
And we'll send this to people.
Yes.
And then say it's negotiable from there. And so it's like that kind of stuff of like just thinking about like, how can we make things more streamlined, more default, more professional. Like,
I think that when you can be professional and send that to like a booker or like someone who's running something, it does make it like they're like, yep, okay.
Yeah.
Like it opens opportunities.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so now we're on Life and Bold.
Yeah.
And one thing that I like to end with and like talk about in like the last like few minutes is like is boldness. And and we talked about like high school and, you know, being smart and being kind of like, you know, eating lunch alone and like then going into your, you know, college and then kind of post college and then MBA and then now you're here.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know after all you've done and all your experience in improv and business, what do you think boldness is?
I think boldness is a lot of it's honesty.
Okay.
And like being honest with yourself.
Yeah.
And being unafraid to be honest with others and just kind of like trust in yourself and trust in other people that like however you show up, it needs to be true to you. And then trust that other people they'll just take it however they take it, but it's not your job to like make everything okay for everyone else.
Wow. Yeah, I agree. Not only do I agree with that, I think that's something that nobody has said yet. Honesty and just like living in the truth.
Yeah.
Because we do a lot of twisting.
Yeah.
We really try to make things better.
Other people comfortable, make ourselves more comfortable, diffuse situations.
Yeah.
Like I think it's very hard for many people, and I'm not exempt, to live in discomfort.
Yeah.
And
you're like, I'm like, yeah, it is.
Yeah. But I think that is like being able to live in discomfort and realize that it doesn't actually, it's not going to kill you.
Yeah.
It's just going to be uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But like temporary discomfort often leads you to more opportunities. Than like the like kind of keeping things comfortable but also keeping yourself limited.
Yeah, that's such a good lesson. Where did you what made you learn that? Like, is that
therapy.
Something someone told you? Therapy.
Years and years of therapy. Still learning it.
Right.
But yeah.
And when you're on stage, like what is your message to people? Like what are you hoping people feel when they're seeing you perform, or what are you hoping to inspire?
I really I think when I'm on stage, my style is like, of course I want to, delight. But I think I want to like kind of share what I see as beautiful about life and about human connection. And I hope that I can bring some of that. Like the delight is like oh my God, isn't life great after all? Right. And it might be, sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's poignant, but that's what I'd like to bring.
Something that brings up to me is the idea of funniness and like also silence.
Yeah.
And silence like from an audience. Because for my Halloween show, I wrote a song for it. And I'm planning to use it for the opening song. And like I don't think it's as funny as my other songs, but I actually think that's like okay because it's the opening song and it's setting the tone and it's kind of like the goal of, when people come out and they're like, let's all just like have some fun, or like let's close the door on the outside world, or like let's remember that we're all here together, like it's a message like that. And the song does that for me at least, and it kind of says, like the world, everything's going on with the world and like everything, but like what I don't want to give away the song, but like it's like, let's like have some fun, like let's just be here. And then the song itself I think is really compelling, like melodically and stuff like that. And so I'm really excited about that, but I do find that I'm in a transition where I'm getting okay with people just enjoying and not necessarily laughing at everything. Has that been a lesson you've learned?
I mean, I think for me, like I always was kind of drawn to more theatrical improv and like eliciting a range of emotions.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's a good point. A range of emotions is good. Because do you know Tim Minchin?
Mm-mm.
Tim Minchin's like this. He's Australian British musical comedian kind of guy.
Sounds kind
he has
of familiar.
long red hair and like eyeliner.
Oh, okay. I think I know of him.
You may know of him.
Yeah.
I went to his show a couple weeks ago at Town Hall in New York, and he called it an unfunny evening with Tim Minchin. And he has so many funny songs, but he actually brought his least funny songs and more like reflective, meaningful songs.
Yeah.
And the show was obviously funny.
Yeah.
But there were a lot of moments of like, oh, this song is like he ended with leading the whole theater and singing Hallelujah.
Oh.
And he is such an amazing, talented musician also, that it was an amazing like thing. And it was like absolutely not comedy one bit.
Yeah.
But sometimes I think with like the word comedy doesn't always have to mean funny.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's what I say, oh, I'm here, look at my comedy video, and someone's like, oh, that's not that funny. You know, or what, that's whatever, like, as an example.
Yeah.
And like, but it doesn't have to be all funny. Like you say, it's a range of emotions.
It's like, you know, you could give someone dessert, but they're like, I've had sweeter.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that's better. Like.
Yeah, right. There are desserts that are less sweet. Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. I love that. Well, I have like loved talking to you.
Yeah.
Where can people find you if they're looking to support you, or like what if they found this podcast on YouTube and they're like, oh my God, this girl's amazing?
I would say first go to pgraph.com. That's my main group from Austin. And if you're in New York or not in New York, especially, like, we love to travel. So if you would like us to come to your theater festival, we teach.
Cool. pgraph.com.
That's that would really be number one. And then otherwise, in New York, if you just want to see me in other shows here and there, you could follow me on Instagram, and I usually post shows in my stories.
Yeah, that's good. And what's your Instagram?
It's Valetoile.
I'll put it in the description as well. I'm so excited. And audience, thank you so much for watching this.
Thank you.
Valerie, thank you so much for being here.
Oh,
and
it's such a delight.
You can follow the podcast at Life in Bold Pod on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And you can follow me, your sexy host, at Laugh with Ben on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And I hope you have an absolutely amazing day, an even better week. And don't forget to live your life in bold. Perfect. We did it.